Hey, everybody. Going to give folks a couple of minutes to file in here. And then we'll get going. So really excited to be doing this product update live stream for you today. This is going to be a really big one. I see we have a couple folks joining us now. People starting to file in. Happy Friday, everybody. How are you doing? How's your life? How's your business? How's your family? My name is Sam Chlebowski. I am one of the co-founders here at Motion.io. And we do these live streams about once a month, every time we do like our big sort of monthly release. And I'm going to be walking you through the features of that release today. But I'm also going to be answering any questions that you have in real time, responding to you and really, answering any other questions that you have about, not just this release, but anything else about Motion.io. So first, I'll start off by asking everybody in the audience, where are you joining us from? Where are you tuning in from in the world? I am actually here today. I have typically in the past done these from home, but I'm at our office in Lafayette, Colorado, which is right down the road from where I live in Denver. We have this awesome new office I've really been enjoying coming into. So going to try it here today. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump in to show you all just a little bit about like what we'll cover here today and kind of give you the 411 about what our latest release includes. So if you just give me a second here, I'm going to share my screen and I will walk you through the basics of our Motion.io release notes. So I will first off start by saying that this release is one of our biggest and boldest. Also see Ernie joining us from Vancouver. Thanks so much for tuning in, Ernie. I know that you actually attended another live stream we did last week with that I did with my colleague Matt, and I believe you're a Motion.io customer now. So thanks for your business. Thanks for being with us. With that, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the March 2025 release notes. And I see Paul joining us from Richmond, Virginia. Hey, Paul, great to have you with us today. Hope your Friday is going well. So this release introduces a couple of really big things. And first off, one of the biggest things about this release is we've completely redesigned and improved our Motion.io client portals. And that's what we're going to be talking about first. Going to talk a little bit about how these work, answer any questions about this new client export portal experience, because I do know it's a big change, but we spent a lot of time focusing on this and making sure that we retained all of the things that worked really well about our client portals, but focused on enhancing them and making them easier to use, easier for clients. So we'll talk about that first. Next up, we're going to go through our new Kanban project management. And I am not kidding when I say that this is probably one of the most requested sort of features and pieces of functionality in Motion.io. We've had people asking for this like since the very beginning. And we really wanted to learn about, hey, how's the best way we can develop this so it doesn't disrupt the other things that work really well on the platform, but adds a ton of value and simplifies your process of managing projects. Then finally, we're going to talk about how you can now create client tasks you can create internal tasks from the Motion.io message center. This one is really cool. It's something that in speaking with a couple of our customers since we released this on Wednesday, they've been really excited about it. I think it is tremendous, even using it internally for my own stuff, for just really streamlining things and making sure that those impromptu client requests come up. Great. I can quickly create a task for that. And cool, I see we have a couple other people who have joined in. Thanks for tuning in. Catherine from Brooklyn, New York. And we also got Eugene joining us from Atlanta. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Really excited to have you here. So with that, and as promised, what we're going to first talk about is Motion.io's new client portal design. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into an account that I have here in my own Motion.io account. And we'll go ahead and show you around here. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to get this screen share all organized. whenever I am like paging between tabs really quickly, I always like lose my place and I always have to get back to the right tab. I don't know about you all, but I am a chronic hundreds and thousands of tabs open at one time kind of person. So let's just go ahead here and one second. Share my screen. So what you are seeing here now on my screen is I am in a client portal, and this is the new sort of client portal experience in Motion.io. So one of the first immediate things that you'll notice about this is it looks a little bit different in terms of the actual like organization of the page, where you have these tabs in the sidebar, but you don't anymore have your custom tabs here. And this is something that, once you get the hang of it, if you've been a Motion.io user for a while now, I think you're really, really going to like, because you still have the full ability to create custom pages with your calendar, with your videos that you want to send people, even embed things like spreadsheets or Google Drive folders. But the way that you customize those now, so these tabs on the left-hand side are going to be all customized in your account settings. But then within each individual project you invite people to, you're then able to customize these tabs so they're project specific now. And the reason why I wanted to show this first is because it's a really good way to understand, sort of what we've done with client portals in Motion.io. Because the biggest change here is that instead of portals being project-based, meaning you have to invite a client to a project to give them access to your portal, you can now within your Motion.io account invite clients to a portal and then invite them to a project at any point down the road. So if you just invite a client to a portal, this projects tab, they won't have anything here, but they would still be able to access their files, send you messages, submit help desk tickets. And this is really useful if, maybe you are migrating from another tool and you want to bring people into Motion.io, you want to set them up in your client directory, but you're not quite ready yet to maybe invite them to an official project, or maybe their project wrapped up. You can still give them access to their client portal, however, give them access to their files library, allow them to send you messages and submit help desk tickets in one centralized place without necessarily having to invite them or create a new project for them. So now that you've seen a little bit of how this works and what the new client portals look like on the client side, I want to go back to my Motion.io account to show you some of the things that you can do with this in the admin view. So back here in my admin view, this is an account that I recently cleaned up. So I only have 2 projects in here, but I will show you where sort of the portal page customizations live. So if you've been using Motion.io, what you're probably used to, how you're probably used to editing portal pages is by going into a project and clicking this portal tab here. So on this page, you're still going to be able to add all of your custom pages, but the things in your portal like welcome or things in your portal and some of those specific pages, you now go into your settings and you're able to turn these default pages on and off. One thing to note about this is that the changes you make here are going to apply to every client's portal. And these pages are all sort of the default pages within Motion.io. So the help desk can be customized, whichever form you want on a per project basis. But things like the home, projects, and my tasks view, those are things you can't turn off because they are critical to using Motion.io. So they're always on by default. But these are just going to populate with whatever information. So like if you turn this off, or we gave you the ability to turn this off, you invited somebody to a project, they wouldn't be able to access that. And the same thing with their tasks. So we have these on by default and you can't turn them off. But if you do want, you can restrict access to the files library that I showed you a little bit ago, as well as you can turn off client chat messages and help desk if you would like. So like I said, these apply at the account level, and you will see these pages when you go to a client's portal over here. But then when you click into a project, all of these pages that you see within the project are project specific. And this is really great because it means you can now really easily invite a client to multiple projects, and they can toggle between them and have different information displayed up here. So I'll just go ahead and quickly show you what that looks like. And I'm going to invite a client that I know I've already invited to a second project. So I'll just quickly do this. I know I already have a client I can use here in my CRM. Cool. And now I'm going to return to their client portal. And what you'll see here, now that I've invited them to 2 projects, great. Mariah here, my example client, can now quickly toggle between these 2 projects, each with their own set of tasks, their own set of deliverables, their own set of portal pages. And this is something that can be totally valuable to you if you like to separate projects up into smaller chunks. For example, maybe let's say you run a marketing agency and you offer brand redesign services, but also website redesign services, and you want to kind of keep those things separate. You can just invite your client to 2 different projects, and they can toggle between them, and they'll still get updates as normal. But then you can also keep things separate with the resources they have available up top here in their project page of their portal. So I'm going to pause there. If anybody has any questions, I would love to go over those now. Happy to respond to anything that you have. Have you tried out this new functionality? If so, how are you liking it? How's it working for you? Yeah, anything that you want to know about this, would love to go over with you all now. With that, I want to also talk about our next big update and a little bit about our Kanban project management functionality. And this is what I said I was going to cover next. Like I said a little bit earlier, this has been something that has been highly, highly requested from our users for some time now. And after really working through, hey, what's the best way for this to operate? I'm really, really happy with what we've settled on. And I find, I was just playing around with some projects and then managing some internal work on my own here because I actually use Motion.io quite a bit in my own function here, like internally at the company. And I've just been finding it so useful and easy because previously in Motion.io, if you would go into a project, and I'll just click in here and go to your tasks page, you would always be on the list page of your tasks. So the only way that you could manage tasks was from this list view. Now, what you are able to do is from this tasks page of your projects, you can toggle between list and board. And I'm going to explain how this works in just a second. But I quickly wanted to, and sorry, I realized I had accidentally paused my screen share there for a second. So here I am, I'm in the task page of a project I've created, and I have this toggle up here for list and board. So with our new Kanban project management functionality, the way that I like to think about it is when you are setting up your projects initially, you are creating all of your tasks, maybe you're building out your workflows, you are in a project template that you're building out. I'll just click into an example one here. I would recommend you'll want to stay on this list view. And we really look at the list view now as your builder view for the project. This is where you're going to create your tasks. You are going to group them into stages. You're really going to organize your project before it kicks off. Once a project is underway, however, and I'll go back into my Moxie Beverages example project here, you're going to want to switch to this board view. And in the board view, it features a Kanban style layout where you can drag tasks between columns. And when you do, it's automatically going to change their status. The reason why we look at the board view as sort of your management view of a project is because you're not going to really be like changing the stage a task is in. Maybe you will be creating new tasks occasionally, but most of the time, what you'll do after a project is underway, at least in most of the users that we've spoken with, you're really just dragging things into a new column. You're activating things, you're commenting, you're marking things complete and looking for roadblocks and dependencies. And this view can really streamline that. One of the reasons that why we found that this was so needed is a lot of our customers were using Motion.io for like 80% of the tasks that they would have in a project will be internal facing tasks. And this new view makes it really, really easy to manage and collaborate on those team tasks. With this update, one of the really great things you can now do, and this applies both to the list view and the board view, is you can actually toggle between all tasks, team tasks, and client tasks. So if you are a agency that does, let's say a website redesign, just to use this project example, a lot of times when you kick off a project initially, most of the client stuff is going to end after onboarding. And your team is going to be responsible, however, for much, much more. So going to this team tab and being able to drag things into a new column is going to automatically activate them. So for example, like if a piece of creative was completed and I saw that here in my portal, I could just drag things from draft to active to activate them. And the same way, if I wanted to, say, hey, we've launched these campaigns with the client's new branding, their new website, I could also drag these into the completed column, and that's automatically going to mark them as complete. Another thing to note about this update is that we've also, because we've really strengthened Motion.io's internal project management and team collaboration features, whenever you create a task now, we actually default to having those tasks become team tasks. And also by default, make them not visible to clients in their portals. And this really allows you to create a lot of internal work and workflows on the fly without having to worry, oh, hey, did I create this as an internal task? Can the client see it? Nope, you don't have to worry about that, because by default, whenever you create a new task now, either within the list view or the board view, it's going to default to an internal team task that is totally hidden from your clients in their portals. So I'm going to go ahead now and talk about a couple of other things that are really cool within this board. But first, I wanted to ask, have you all seen the new Kanban functionality? Have you used it in your projects yet? What do you think? Is it something you're finding useful? Are there things you wish it had? I would love to know. Feel free to send in your questions. I do respond to like every single question live. So get those questions in and I'll make sure I answer them. Another cool aspect of what is included with this release that I will talk about next is the ability to create tasks from client messages. So if you are not familiar with this already, in your Motion.io account, the message center, which you see here on the left-hand side of my screen, when you click into this, it's going to display all of your chat messages, all of the comments clients leave on tasks in one centralized location. What's cool is actually last month, we released an update that when clients respond to emails, those responses will actually get placed here too. So for example, if a client receives a reminder about a task they didn't complete, they respond via email, via their Gmail or whatever tool they're using. Those responses would show up here in addition to comments and chat messages. And I set this up ahead of time. I commented, as my example client, and this was on a task for them to give feedback on a website wireframe that we sent them. And the client had said, whoops, I realized I attached the wrong logo when I uploaded my brand assets initially. I'll send you a new file momentarily. What I can now do is when clients send a message like this, because I know that, hey, okay, this client, Mariah Moxie of Moxie Beverages, is going to be sending me a new logo file. I want to make sure that that gets done. I want to make sure that that is completed and we don't miss that and that the client knows we did it. So when I click into this task, if you look at the top, or when I click into this message, you'll now see at the top, you have this handy little convert to task button. So in this case, I'm going to call this task, update client logo on wireframe, and just leave a quick description that client provided a new logo. Please replace. And when I do this, this is going to create a new task and automatically send it to the tasks page of my project. And it'll appear both on the list view, but as we mentioned, the board view is kind of your management space. So I'm going to go and show you what it looks like there. I also have the option, if I wanted to, I could show this in the portal. But for now, I'm just going to leave this toggled off. So I'll go ahead and click Save, and then click View Task. And what you'll see is that, great, I have this task that I created from that client message. And let's say, after this client, Mariah Moxie, sends me her logo, what I could do is I can just grab that, attach it to the task, and then I'm going to assign the team member. In this case, it's my fake teammate, Sarah Smith, who is going to be responsible for this. And cool, I'll go ahead and save that. And then also one thing I didn't do that I'm just going to update here quickly, I'm also going to add a stage for this task just because it's related to the website wireframe. You don't have to do this, but it can be helpful. And then also what I'm going to do is, so this is set up as a draft, and I will go ahead and drag it into the active column. When I drag that task I created from the client message into the active column, it's going to notify my teammate. It's going to make that task available to her so she can go in and complete it. And then we can very easily, if we wanted to, go back to the same message thread and just let the client know, hey, thanks for sending this over. We just updated the wireframe. And sweet, easy as that. So this can be really useful. The example that I shared was for kind of a website design project, but I could think of, dozens of different examples where you might want to convert the messages clients send you into a task. A lot of times I know from speaking with our customers, there are services that they offer where, hey, a client signs up for one package and then there's this add-on thing. This is a really great way, if clients request additional work or additional things that they want your business to do, you can create tasks for those and just really easily build them into the existing project workflow. And we have a question from Ernie. Can clients only send messages through the portal, or will a random email from the client Gmail account also show up? So Ernie, the way that this works, and those emails that I was referring to, Ernie is basically asking, hey, if a client, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Ernie, hey, if a client responds to any message, will it appear here? So it's only the emails that clients receive from motion.io that will show up in your message center. So that includes things like reminder emails and daily digest emails. Anything that they respond there will show up here, but it's not just like anything that they send to your email address. it has to be a response to one of the automated Motion.io messages. So hopefully that answers your question there, Ernie. A few other things I wanted to talk about today, just in case you haven't tuned into one of these live streams in a while. One of the cool things that we did recently as a part of one of our updates is when you create tasks, you now have all of the same task options over here in the Motion.io task composer. Previously, when you would toggle between creating team tasks and client tasks, you'd have a different set of things that you could attach, require, and schedule. But now those things are all exactly the same. So this opens up some really cool functionality. For example, if let's say you are working with a new contractor and you want to invite them into your Motion.io account, you could even create a project for that contractor called onboarding, have them sign a document, have them upload certain files. Maybe you need identification or just kind of standard like employment stuff from them. And this is really cool because they can be on your team and you can have them complete their own sort of onboarding project and then have them work on additional projects, client-facing stuff down the road. And good to hear that was helpful for you, Ernie. Yeah, it was a really cool update that we had just released because we were noticing that clients would often respond to those notifications or reminders they would get from Motion.io. And we were basically saying like, wouldn't it be great if those just went into Motion.io? So we made it happen. So back here in my project, want to also talk about a couple of things in case you have missed this over our last few Motion.io updates. One of the things we've had some questions about recently is the team review function. And this is really great, especially for managing client projects and your internal management of projects, because there are often tasks that you assign to clients where how should I say this? There are tasks you assign to clients where either they just don't do all the way, or maybe like the feedback that they provide isn't exactly helpful. For tasks like that you're noticing, hey, clients often get confused about this, or we need to verify this thing. Using this require team review is a great way to kind of put a check in place before you move on to the next step. So one of the real world examples of this, and I'm just going to set this task or the tasks over here back to the draft status here. So let's say I had my client in onboarding, and I knew that when clients would complete this task to upload their brand assets, almost every time they'd be missing something that we needed. Maybe it was a specific file type, maybe it was a specific file size. What I could do for this task to make sure that we have all of the brand assets we need before we go ahead and start in the design phase is I could simply toggle on team review and make sure my team member reviewed it before this task could be officially marked as complete. And I'll show you what that looks like once the client does complete the task. So I'm going to go ahead back into a client portal that I have. And I'm going to complete this task as the client quickly. And so for this, I'm only going to upload the logo and then mark this as completed. What I will see now when I go back to my admin view of the project here. One second. is that task would show as requires review. So the team member would have to mark it then complete as again, or mark it complete again to confirm that all of those files received. And so Catherine asked a question. So this is for my own business. Catherine, the way that we look at our new Kanban project management functionality is this is kind of your space for managing those projects and that project internally with your team. Within Motion.io, it combines and blends together the client-facing work, the things that you need them to do, the updates you want them to see, as well as your own internal workflows. And the benefit of this is that you're able to very clearly see, oh, hey, we're waiting on this thing from the client, so we can't do this other thing until that happens, without having to bounce between different tools. And that has been something since the earliest days of Motion.io. The business we've spoken with have identified as like a real pain point for them, where there is no tool that combines really good project management. There is ClickUp, there's Monday, there's Asana, there's Trello. They're all great at that team collaboration. But where they're challenging is that if you try to invite a client into a Asana board, they're going to have no idea what they're doing. I was even on LinkedIn last night, and I saw someone who posted a image of, and this is not smack talking ClickUp at all, but they'd posted a picture of a approval portal that they created on LinkedIn. And this thing was so complicated. There were so many different columns. There were all of these different, settings and things that the client needed to check. And I was just like, ooh, that is tough to use for the client who may not be familiar with a tool like that. And that's where Motion.io really shines, is that you are able to give your clients access to this, really easy to understand, very clearly broken down portal where the tasks are laid out and broken down and staged by them. And it communicates exactly what they want to do. If it's an onboarding form, they know, hey, please complete the questions below. Great, mark it as complete. If it is, approving a website wireframe or, giving feedback on something, they see those tasks, they're able to complete them one by one without jumping into this tool that, maybe they're not familiar with, maybe they've never even used anything like it before. What we've designed Motion.io's client portals to do is to be so simple and intuitive that even your least tech savvy customers can use them. Awesome to hear that was helpful, Catherine. Sorry about that. My page just refreshed and my internet connection went out for a second, but I think we're good now. I think we're all set. So with that, I really have walked through, the bulk of Motion.io's recent updates. But anybody, out there in the audience, if you are watching this, would love to know, hey, write in with your questions. What can I show you in Motion.io? Are you curious about automations? Do you want to learn things about connecting Motion.io to other tools with Zapier? Do you want to see how embedding things into a portal or a task works? And actually see that we have gotten a question in from Instagram that actually ironically just wrote something in very similar, asking if it is still possible to embed websites and third-party apps into portal pages. And so, yeah, the answer to that is yes. And I'm going to go ahead into my account and just show you how this works. I kind of showed this off at the beginning of this live stream, but the way that you're going to create custom portal pages with our new client portal design is you'll simply go into a project. You can also do this in a template if you want it to carry over. Click on the portal page and then click Add New Page. So what you can do here is there is the title where you can just enter a title for the page. Let's say I just want to call this resources. And I could include regular links. So, if I wanted to, I'm going to include a link here for the Motion.io support guides. Cool. Add a link. Great. But then I can also embed things directly into this page. So if I didn't want to make this a link, I could actually just enter our website or our help desk and knowledge base URL directly into this. And what you'll see is that when I click preview portal and go into this, we'll be able to see this directly. And so let me just pan over to this other tab here really quickly. To show you what this looks like. So I added this resources tab, and cool. Just like that, the Motion.io knowledge base, our URL is embedded directly in there. And this is going to work for third-party apps as well as websites. Two of the examples that I showed earlier is, I embedded a calendar directly into the project tabs up top here, as well as a quick tutorial video. And there's all kinds of cool ways that this can be used. We have actually a whole guide up on our website that would be great to check out if you have questions about this, where I showcase basically 6 ways that you can use embeds. And this applies to both tasks as well as your project pages that I showed you just a moment ago. So some common examples, calendars, I showed you that. Another really cool one is reporting dashboards. So Google Looker Studio, if you're anybody in the marketing space, is a really great tool because it allows you to pull in AdWords data, Search Console data, really anything in your Google Analytics or associated accounts. And with Google Looker Studio, you can create these customized reports that you can actually add to your client portals and give them access to in real time. So you don't even have to send them, a monthly update email. Nope, they can just go into their portal and look at that. Videos are another option, as well as things like external forms. Motion.io has its own very powerful form builder. With embedding external forms, we do see sometimes that people have forms they just, maybe don't want to recreate, or that connect to maybe a different tool. So you can embed that, as well as payment apps. And this is something that we've had a lot of users doing. Just as a note, payments and invoicing is on our roadmap, but it's not a part of the product at this moment natively. That said, there is our embed functionality gives you a really easy way to embed links from tools like Square, PayPal, or Xero, so clients can pay invoices directly in their portal. Along those lines, another thing we see people do is actually embed full Google Drive folders into their tasks and project pages. And this is a handy little trick if you're on Google Drive and want to have that as your backup sort of file storage. Motion.io does have its full own file management system that's associated with each project. But in some cases, it can be helpful if you want to have things kind of live where they are already and have all of your backups there. You can integrate Google Drive folders directly into your client portals and tasks. I see now from Instagram, we also got another question here that came in a few moments ago about using automations in Motion.io. I mentioned that as one of the things that I could talk about. Thanks for asking the question, Adam. And I'm going to go ahead back into my Motion.io account and just give you all kind of like the basic run through of automations and how they work in Motion.io. So for this, I'm actually going to create some automations in one of my templates because this is typically where you will be setting up automations in the first place. And then when you create a project from this template, all of those automations will pull over. So you'll see in here, I've actually set up some automations already, and I'm actually just going to go and quickly delete these so we can show you kind of what this looks like from scratch. And I'll talk a little bit about some of my favorite automations to set up in Motion.io. and some of the ones that I think are, really the most valuable. One thing to note is that when you are creating automations either in a project or a template, you can create them directly from the project tasks page. Where I personally like to create them, though, is I like to just go, especially when I'm in a template, to this automations page that's available right in the top navigation bar, because it really allows you to see all of your tasks at once. And that's kind of the way that I like to think about it. I like to think about it from a sort of top level of like first, second, third thing that happens, as opposed to jumping around on the tasks page. So for the first automation I'll set up, and this is a really, really common one that I've helped people with, instructed them to set up before, is I'm going to set up a trigger. And triggers, if you're unfamiliar with this is basically the event that happens that will kick off an automation. And you can add a single trigger event to your automation, or you can add multiple. So if there's two things that you want to happen before an automation runs instead of one, you're very easily able to add as many trigger events as you'd like. These work with an and function. So if this thing happens and this thing also happens, do this. But if just one of these things happen, don't. For this automation I'm setting up, though, I'm going to keep this simple and just do a single trigger. So I'll go ahead and select if project brand redesign template is created. And this means that this will trigger whenever I create a new project from this template. Then activate, and we're going to activate a task, complete onboarding form, due in 3 days. And this is going to be a really cool automation. So this kind of has 2 steps to it. And the reason why I'm showing you this is it touches some of Motion.io's most powerful functionality. So for this first automation, just as a recap, when this project is created, we're going to automatically activate the client to complete their onboarding form. And then the task after that, what we're going to do is if that onboarding form is completed, we are then going to automatically activate a task for them to complete and sign their contract. And what is really cool about these 2 automations in particular is that I've actually set up this form ahead of time to autofill my custom fields in Motion.io. This is something that we actually talked about and we gave kind of a tutorial on in our live stream last week. But for anybody new joining us for the first time, I wanted to show this because it's really, really powerful. So in this new client onboarding form, what you'll see the way that I've set this up is there are certain fields in here that have this little tag icon. And what this means is that, and you can hover over it to see what specifically happens. But basically, when the client fills in their business name, it'll set the value of a corresponding custom field that we can then populate other places in the project. So just to kind of show you an example of this, let me go ahead and create a project from that template. And when I go to fields, you'll see that right now, none of these fields are filled out. But what would happen is after the client submits their onboarding form, and you can see my automation did successfully fire, these fields in their project are going to be filled in with their specific information. So let's just call this project, Painters Inc. Let's say, the business I'm working with in this example is a house painting business. So I didn't submit the form just because I don't want to make you watch me fill out an entire onboarding form that has a bunch of questions. But what would happen is when this form is submitted, great. So let's mark that complete. Just, pretend the client did it. This field would get filled in. And then in the next task, the task for them to sign their contract, it's going to automatically populate their business name in this contract I've set up. And I'll show you kind of what that looks like as well. So I have this digital marketing contract I created, and this is something I set up ahead of this webinar, but just to show you very quickly, what you'll see is when I click into the client business name, great, we have the corresponding field for client business name. So this would populate when I send this to the client through that automation with their business name, Painters Inc. If you are new to using custom fields in your contract, it's actually really easy to do. All you have to do is copy the custom field from your Motion.io project or even your settings page and just paste it here into the API ID field. If you are interested in doing this, we also have a really great YouTube video up, which I'll share a link for. And we have a question from Tanya. Thanks for writing in. How can I add the client as I create the project so the task is automatically assigned to the client? So Tanya, there's two ways to do that. One is a little bit more manual, and the other is one is totally automated. For the manual approach, I say manual, but it really takes literally like 4 seconds and one or two clicks. What I would suggest doing, if you are really looking to streamline the process of adding clients to your projects, is ahead of time, you can go in and you can add them to the client directory. And this client directory, this gives you the ability to add clients to Motion.io without having to invite them to a project. So you can do this ahead of time and then go into your project's dashboard, create project, and I'll select that template I had earlier. And now the very easy way to assign the client automatically is I'm going to go ahead and just click this example client. What I would suggest doing is just use a bulk action to select all of the tasks in your project and then set assignees as your client. So it's really as simple as that. Basically, after you add your user, select all, go down to set assignees, and then select the client. So you only have to do this one time, especially if you've already set up automations. What will happen is because you've assigned the client to all tasks ahead of time, your automations can take care of the rest and sending those tasks as the project moves forward. So it really, prevents you from having to add them to every task individually. Nope, I would say just go bulk actions and set assignees is going to be a really great way to do that. Also, as a note too, when tasks are saved as a draft, clients don't have access to those. So they'll only get access once you activate them. So, even going back to what I showed you earlier with our Kanban view, let's say I did want the client to complete these tasks now. Cool, they're in draft. I know the client can't see them. I could also just drag them over and activate them if I hadn't set up automations. And then the client who's assigned would be able to access these. The second way to auto-assign clients to a project is going to be through Zapier. And I won't get too in the weeds with this, but I can show you just a quick example of the way that this works, something we commonly set up for clients. And I would say this is probably our most popular Zapier integration. So let me just go ahead into my account here. And I'll just set up a very quick Zapier workflow for you. And this is something we have a ton of guides on. If you write in, our support can also help you if you're new to Zapier. All you need is a Zapier account, and then we'll be able to walk you through the steps. So yeah, email us at hello@motion.io if you need help with this. But I will just show you this here very quickly. So this is going to be an automation to create a project once a specific form, let's say this is a form on my website, is submitted. And what you can do using Motion.io's create project Zapier action is you can actually use this to add clients, to create a project from a template, add your client to the project, and set even custom field values using this automation step. So for this project, let's say I want to use my, where's a good template to use? I'll just use this website redesign template. And I can map the fields from this form that the client submits on my website to use their information. So for example, for the client email, and I got to just go back there real quick. Oh, I don't have any recent form submissions, but that's okay. Basically, the way that this works is you'll be able to configure this information to pull from your form submission. This can even pull in from a CRM. So for example, if you're using a CRM to manage clients before services start, you could have a automation set up. Hey, when a prospect is moved to close one, when a certain label is applied, create a project in motion.io. And then if you are looking to assign all of the clients automatically ahead of time, what you'll want to be sure to do is click this true option under immediately assign tasks to clients. As a quick note, this is not going to send those tasks to them, but it is going to assign them. So even if this automation would fire, it would create a project. Those tasks in that project would be set as drafts until either you manually sent them or had a motion.io automation do that. This is just going to assign them to those tasks. So I know that was a quick buzz through of like Zapier, but we've had a couple other questions. So I want to make sure we have time to get to those. But I will include a good resource here for setting up that Zapier automation that I showcased. And here we go. Here it is. If you hear my voice in the background, sorry. But yeah, here is that video for you if you are interested in using Zapier to kick off projects. So got a question from Catherine. Does the custom field example you shared work the other way? I send my contract first and then my intake form. Can I create a custom field to pull from the contract and populate the intake form? So Catherine, at the moment, the only way to populate custom fields is through either Zapier, manually filling it out, or a motion.io form. We don't have the ability to populate custom fields through contracts at this time. That said, I think that that's a pretty compelling idea, and I'll log that as a feature request for our team to consider. Eugene asked a question. I noticed the AI task builder on y'all's website. I've not been able to locate it in the platform. Is it available? Great question, Eugene. It's a little bit hidden actually right now. We, kind of did that intentionally, and it was sort of a smaller or a more sort of hidden release within motion.io in a way. But what you will notice, and the way that you can use this, is if you create a project from scratch, it's going to appear then. So all you have to do to access that is just create a project or template from scratch, and then this will appear, and you are able to fill out the prompt and create your tasks that way. We have a plan. We're actually in the process of really revamping this AI task builder so that you can kind of use it at any point within a project. And that's, kind of explains why it's, somewhat less accessible than, it otherwise should be. But yeah, just as a quick recap, the way that you access that, create a project, just create it from scratch, and then you'll have access to that AI task builder up top here. Michael asked a question. I know this may have been covered, but the new portal look lists the pages across the top. I only have 6, but have to scroll to see them all. Can we default back to the old look where they were on the side? So we're talking about that internally, how to best handle that at the moment. If you want, Michael, it would be really helpful if you could send just an email at hello@motion.io. Send us an email. We'll work with you on that. and make sure we get that feedback logged. Sorry to hear that, the new sort of design isn't working for you as well as you'd hoped, but very receptive to feedback. And we'll make sure that, we make whatever adjustments are needed to make sure this works for as many of our users as possible. So appreciate that. And it's great to hear that you still love it. And we love having you as a user and, taking the most out of the Motion.io platform. And we do take your feedback very seriously. So appreciate that. There was a question from Ela Connect. Hi, Sam. Could you quickly show how to make some tasks mandatory before they move on to others? Yeah, absolutely. So, and I believe this is Tim from Ela Connect. I recognize the name of the YouTube channel. So to do this, the way that you would set up your template is, I'm just going to do this very quickly from scratch. And I'm going to create a stage called onboarding. And then just very quickly a stage called launch. So I'll just call this task 1. This will be a client task. Task 2. And then task 3. So one important thing to note about tasks in Motion.io is clients don't have access. And I think I probably mentioned this a couple of times throughout our live stream here today, but clients don't have access to draft tasks. So in order to see tasks, you have to activate them. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do that. In your case, where you are wanting certain tasks to be mandatory before they can move on to the next stage, how I would suggest setting up your projects and your templates is, and I just want to make a quick adjustment to this. I would suggest setting up automations for these tasks to where if only after task 1 is completed do they move on to task 2. And then only after tasks 1 and 2 are completed can they move on to task 3. And this is a really simple way to streamline things and make sure that, hey, that first task is completed. Okay, great, the client can move on. But if not, that's basically going to be, dependent on the client until they do those things. So this is a really easy automation to set up. You would just do, if task 1 is completed, then activate task 2, and you can even set a number of days that you want this task to be due after task 1 is completed. And you would just kind of rinse and repeat this for the 2 other tasks that you have. So then we could do, if task 2 is completed, then activate task 3 and have that due in X number of days. And so the benefit of setting things up this way is all you got to do is assign this first task, and then you can be hands off because you know that you have automation set up where where only after this first task is completed will the second one become active, and the same thing with the second task being completed. Only after that happens will the third task become available to the client. If you are doing sort of a mandatory workflow like this, one of the things that I would point out to you that might be helpful to know is, so with Motion.io's automated reminders, we are only going to send reminders if you have them toggled on 3 days after the task is overdue. So it'll notify them basically, I had this task set up until to be due on April 17th. Great. It would send the final reminder email on April 20th. So if they are mandatory tasks and you want the client to have them as overdue, and you're not going to just manually go in and complete these, one thing that you could do is, from your project's dashboard, you could filter by overdue tasks. And then here, let me just make a task in one of my example projects overdue so I can show you specifically what this looks like. Just one second here. I just think it's helpful for you to see what it looks like to use this, because what I'm trying to show you is basically a really streamlined way to follow up after a number of days and after Motion.io had stopped sending reminder emails. So I'll set this due date to yesterday. Cool. So I have an overdue task now. What you could do is, because these are tasks that are mandatory, the client can't move on to the next one until they complete the first one. If you had a bunch that were overdue, a really quick way to ping your clients about this is click the checkbox here and then use this bulk actions option on the project's dropdown to send a bulk chat message to them. And this is really great for following up with clients, checking in on things, because while I only have one project selected here, let's say I had 15 projects that all had the same task overdue, I could send a bulk chat message to all of them. They'll get notified of that via email. They'll get a magic link. They can go into their client portal and then complete that. So wonderful question. And a final question that we'll answer here is also, how does this fit in with stages? So that's basically referencing, I believe, how do the automations fit in with stages? And I can show you that very quickly. For a quick refresher, your stages in Motion.io are collections of tasks organized visually for your clients and your team. Well, I set up automations in this template initially that activate on a task basis. I could also do the same thing with stages. Also, one thing to point out is that the way a stage becomes active is if at least one task in that stage is also active. So, for example, if I activate task 3 in my project, it would activate this entire stage called launch, but it would only activate one of those tasks. So let's say I had another task in my launch stage here, but instead of just activating task 3 after task 2 was completed, I wanted to activate both of these tasks at one time. A very easy way to do that is I can just adjust my automation here. And instead of activating just task 3, I could activate the stage called launch. And what this automation is going to do is it's going to activate both task 3 and task 4 after task 2 in my project is completed. So hopefully that answers your question, Tim, and hopefully that was clear. If you need additional guidance on that, though, happy to show you around. Feel free to send me an email. I'll now plug it in right there, sam@motion.io. And you can also, as a reminder, always email our support desk directly for any comments, questions, or assistance you need. So everyone, thank you so much for all of the great questions, for tuning in on your Friday here. Really appreciate it. It makes these a lot more fun for me. Some really, really great questions about Motion.io today. And hope you've been trying out this the new features and functionality we just released on Wednesday of this week. We have, a YouTube video now and a blog post all about it in case you want to learn more. I'll include links to those. But with that, yeah, everybody take care. And we do these webinars basically once a week now, or if not once a week, every other week. We'll send you emails about that if you're on our list. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you all again and connecting in the future. Until next time, everybody, my name is Sam Chlebowski, co-founder of Motion.io, signing off.